it begins with a whisper. Not in a laboratory, not in a machine, but deep inside the human body, in the quiet pulse of blood, in the rhythm of life itself. Every heartbeat, every breath, every thought you've ever had is written in a code 3 billion letters long. A code older than civilization, older than language, older even than memory. And now, for the first time in human history, we have learned to rewrite it. They call it gene editing, a technology that doesn't just heal life, but changes it. It can erase disease or design perfection. It can end suffering or end what it means to be human. For thousands of years, we've tried to control the world around us, to shape the stars, the soil, the seas, but today, we've found a way to control ourselves. This is the story of how we learned to edit destiny, and what it might cost us. It began not with ambition, but with something microscopic: bacteria. In 2012, two scientists, Jennifer Doudna and Emmanuel Charpentier, discovered a molecular system that bacteria used to defend themselves against viruses. They called it CRISPR-Cas9, and it was more than just a tool. It was a revolution. CRISPR could identify a specific sequence of DNA, slice it precisely, and replace it with something new, almost as if nature itself had built a pair of scissors and given them to us. For the first time, humanity could edit the genetic code of any living thing. The possibilities seemed endless. Cure inherited diseases, eliminate genetic disorders, reshape evolution itself. But beneath the promise lay temptation, because if you can edit one gene, you can edit any gene. And if you can edit any gene, you can edit us. The line between healing and creating suddenly blurred, and the question shifted from can we to should we. DNA is the blueprint of life. A story written in just 4 letters. A, T, C, and G. Those letters form words. Those words form instructions, and together they tell your body who you are. For most of human history, DNA was a sacred mystery. We could read it, but never change it. Ten cames ere isp, ere discovery that turned scientists into editors of existence itself. Imagine opening a digital document, pressing edit, and rewriting sentences in the language of life. That's what CRISPR does. It can cut out the gene that causes blindness, paste in one that prevents cancer, or even insert traits that evolution never intended. It's power beyond anything we've held before. Evolution guided not by nature, but by human hands. But evolution is messy for a reason. It takes millions of years for a purpose, and now we're trying to accelerate it in a single generation. In 2018, the world watched as the unthinkable happened. A Chinese scientist named He Jiankui announced the birth of 2 twin girls, Lulu and Nana. But they weren't like any children before them. Their DNA had been edited before birth. He claimed to have modified a gene that would make them resistant to HIV, a noble intention on the surface. But what he truly did was cross a line no one had dared to cross. He edited the germline, meaning those changes wouldn't just affect the girls, but every generation after them. The scientific community was outraged. He Jiankui was condemned and imprisoned. Yet even as he fell, the world knew something irreversible had begun, because knowledge, once discovered, never dies. The ability to edit the human genome existed, and whether humanity was ready or not, the door to a new kind of evolution had already been opened. The concept of a designer baby once belonged to science fiction, but not anymore. Today, we can already screen embryos for disease, for potential, for beauty. With gene editing, the next step becomes inevitable, not just preventing illness, but enhancing life. Imagine a future where parents can choose their child's eye color, intelligence, height, even personality. It sounds like progress, but progress is rarely neutral. It starts with compassion. A parent's wish to protect their child from pain, but soon, compassion becomes competition. To decide, for better transforms into the demand for perfect. And when perfection becomes possible, imperfection becomes unacceptable. The world could divide into those who are enhanced, and those who are left behind. The dream of progress may become the architecture of inequality. Because once you can choose the best version of your child, how long before the normal human becomes obsolete? Imagine a world where genetic editing is as common as cosmetic surgery. The wealthy pay for enhanced genes, disease, resistance, longevity, superior intelligence, while the rest of humanity stays natural. At first, the differences are subtle, but over generations, they grow into evolution itself. Humanity splits, not by borders, color, or class, but by biology. The edited and the unedited, the privileged and the primitive. In that world, inequality wouldn't just exist in opportunity, it would exist in DNA. Governments would weaponize genetics. Militaries would chase optimized soldiers. Corporations would seek employees. A new kind of power would emerge. Not economic, not political, but biological supremacy. This isn't a distant fantasy. The race has already begun. The next arms race of the 21st century won't be fought with missiles or machines. It'll be fought in the code of life itself. Yet in the shadow of fear, hope burns bright. Because for millions, gene editing is not about perfection, it's about survival. Take the story of Victoria Gray, an American woman born with sickle cell disease. For 30 years, pain ruled her life. Bones like glass, organs failing, nights filled with suffering. Then, in 2020, something miraculous happened. Doctors used CRISPR to edit her bone marrow cells, rewriting her DNA so her body could produce healthy blood. Within months, decades of pain vanished. She said it felt like being reborn. For her, gene editing wasn't a tool of vanity, it was salvation. And she's not alone. Across the world, patients once doomed by genetic diseases are finding hope where there was none. CRISPR is giving humanity not just the power to design the future, but to heal the past. But every miracle casts a shadow. Technology never stays pure for long. Fire gave us warmth and war. Electricity gave us light and destruction. Now, gene editing gives us life and the power to control it. A single misplaced cut in DNA could create a new disease or erase a future generation. Mistakes wouldn't just vanish with time, they'd multiply, passed down like a silent inheritance. One experiment could echo through centuries. And as history has shown, humanity's reach often exceeds its wisdom. We are curious, ambitious, hungry to master creation, but rarely patient enough to understand it. Once we begin to rewrite the code of life, we're no longer editing a patient or a child. We're editing the story of our species. And stories, once rewritten, can never be undone. The quiet truth is, the race has already begun. Around the world, nations are competing, not for land or oil, but for genetic supremacy. The US, China, Russia, and countless others are pouring billions into biotech. Some seek cures, others seek control. Some dream of healthier children, others of stronger soldiers. It's a new Cold War, fought not in the skies, but in the cells of human beings. And like every arms race, once one nation steps forward, the rest will follow. No one wants to be left behind in the next era of evolution. The outcome? A planet driven by fear disguised as progress. Because once humanity realizes it can design advantage, someone will, and that single choice may decide who thrives and who becomes history. The battle for the future won't be fought with bombs, but with biology. What happens when we erase every flaw? When suffering is optional? When even death feels negotiable? We might win the war against disease, but lose something irreplaceable. The meaning of being human. Because our flaws aren't accidents, they're teachers. Pain gives rise to empathy. Weakness breeds resilience. Mortality gives life urgency. If we remove all that, what remains? A perfect organism, or a soulless machine wearing human skin. Every story that defines us, from ancient myth to modern film, begins with imperfection. The hero's flaw becomes his journey. Without it, there is no story. Perfection may look like progress, but it erases the very struggle that gives life its beauty. Maybe the question isn't what gene editing allows us to fix, but what it might cause us to forget. But perhaps there's another way to see this, not as hubris, but as awakening. For the first time, evolution isn't blind, it's conscious. Humanity now holds the ability to steer its own path, to choose what survives and what fades. Maybe this is nature's next step, evolution, guided by understanding, not random mutation, but deliberate compassion. We can end suffering that once felt eternal. We can protect future generations from disease, pain, and loss. But this power demands something evolution never required before. Wisdom. Because knowledge alone isn't progress. Its potential, without restraint, can destroy everything it hopes to save. Perhaps the purpose of gene editing isn't to play God, but to learn what being a creator truly means, to build, to heal, and to understand that the greatest edits are those made with humility. For centuries, humanity has tried to escape nature's grasp. We built cities to tame its chaos, medicine to defy its cruelty, machines to outrun its limits. And now, we've reached the final frontier to rewrite nature itself. But nature isn't something we conquer. It's something we're part of. When we change it, it changes us back. The more we bend the rules, the more resistance. We meet antibiotic resistance, collapsing ecosystems, climate breakdowns, and now, we risk rewriting the most fundamental rule of all, what it means to be human. Are we becoming gods, or merely experiments of our own creation? Every civilization, at its peak, faces a moment like this, a choice between wisdom and destruction, between mastering power or being consumed by it. And the higher we climb, the more fragile the edge becomes. Technology, in the end, is just a mirror. It reflects not what we build, but who we are. When we look into CRISPR, we don't just see science, we see our ambition, our fear, our longing for control. Every gene we touch reveals something about ourselves, our need to be better, faster, stronger. But sometimes, the limits we try to erase are the ones that make us real. The drive to perfect the body might blind us to the evolution of the soul. Maybe humanity's next evolution isn't in our DNA, but in our conscience. Maybe the real code that needs rewriting isn't genetic, it's moral. We've learned to edit life. Now we must learn to edit intention. Because if progress outpaces empathy, then perfection becomes just another word for extinction. And so, we stand at the edge of something extraordinary and terrifying. In the coming decades, gene editing will change everything. How we live, how we heal, how we define what's normal. But it can't tell us who we should be. That's still our choice. We can use this power to cure or to corrupt, to unify or to divide, to preserve life or redesign Italiano. The code of life is now in our hands, but so is its meaning. The future isn't written in our genes. It's written in the choices we make today. And perhaps the greatest challenge of this century isn't learning how to edit the human genome, but learning how to remain human while doing it. One day, history will look back at this moment and see a species standing on the brink of godhood, trembling, uncertain, but alive with possibility. It will ask not what we edited, but why. Did we rewrite life to heal, or to dominate? Did we seek to end pain, or to escape imperfection? The answers will define us, because the power to change life is not just scientific, it's spiritual. Maybe the greatest act of creation is knowing when not to change a thing. As we hold the ability to reshape existence, we must remember that what makes us human isn't written in a T, C, or G. It's written in choice. We are not just the readers of this code, we are its authors. And how we choose to write the next chapter will determine not only our future, but the meaning of humanity itself.